This is the Blue Radio. This is the Breakfast Vibe Show. Our guest is already in studio with us. How is your morning? Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm fine. Welcome. Kindly introduce yourself. Who are you and what do you do?
And my name is Haitam Issa. And I'm a youth advocate and a GPV champion. Advocating against gender-based violence.
All right. So take us through your journey. How did you start advocacy?
And my advocacy campaign, my advocacy started when I joined and I started an organization called Future Pillars Organization. It's a CBO, a community-based organization. And the cases of GPV has been rampant in Vita constituency and Nyali. Since I'm working with the Office of the Women Rep, I started to focus on advocacy against gender-based violence. Yeah.
So what inspired you to even start the CBO in the first place? Like, what was that pain point that made you think, okay, this is a problem and I am the person to solve this?
And the pain point is being a youth. I've seen how fellow youths think when it comes to solving community problems. We all shy away from community problems. And we believe that our voices are not heard. And for a while, just not gender-based violence, but other societal issues. And you see the crime cases on drug abuse. But you see that the youths are not vocal about it. That's when I realized that, and we must have a collective responsibility when it comes to addressing these issues as youth also. And that's why I thought it's time for youth to take up responsibility and talk about these issues in our community, because none if it's not us, nobody will talk about them.
Yeah.
So that's how the issue of the idea of the CBO started.
And when you started it, how did it come to life? Because you can have an idea, because most people have ideas, but the implementation is always the problem.
It's not easy. Because I remember when we started, we had our first meeting. We had 21 members who attended the meeting. We discussed the way forward.
By members, you mean? What do you mean by members? Did you go mobilize people first and then they decided, okay, maybe we can join this thing? Or how did they come to be members?
You see, when you start anything, the first people who support you are friends and family.
Yeah.
So most of them were friends. We came together and discussed how we can take this thing forward and how we can organize ourselves. And we started. But till today, you find that the organization is being run by myself. So it's not easy.
It's not easy.
The implementation part is just taking advices from people who are already in the community doing these things. People who are fellow champions. They guide you. They show you the way forward. And that's how I think the CBO has come to life.
There are points where you're really jumping and I want us to go back. You've had maybe your first meeting, you've said 21 members.
Yeah.
And what's the next step after this meeting? Do you start how do you reach to the masses, to the other youth and the society at large? And in what ways did you move? You know, which ways did you say, okay, tutaenda kwa this and this youth and tell them about this? You know, some people ask people to just come maybe for something that like a baraza or something, a meetup, or some people go and meet people in the streets and talk to them randomly, just like that. So take us through now you've done your first meeting, and what next after that? How did you start reaching out to people, and what was their perception by the society?
And at first, we were dealing with GPV cases or the CBO as a whole, advocacy against and quality education, for advocating for quality education and quality healthcare.
Yes.
And the approach at first was in talking to the masses directly by having meetings or barazas, as you have said, and training programs whereby we talk about the issues, we try to understand the why of the situation, how it can be solved. But then we came to the policy level whereby we said, who can we work with as stakeholders to make the proper policies? And I think the main achievement and what I'm trying to achieve at this point is, how can we have the youth from, let's say we are advocating for quality education in Maweni Primary School. How do we get the youth in that area taking up the responsibility? Instead of me being there and advocating for it, how can we have the youth in Maweni advocating for that? That's when the idea of the youth councils, forming youth councils in each ward came up. And currently we have a youth council in Mkomani and we have a youth council in Kazandani. So we have that approach whereby we want the youth. It's actually what I've titled the program to be was Leadership Development Program, where I want to develop the youth to take up responsibility of leadership in their communities and then work with them to advocate for the societal issues or economic issues in their community. Yeah.
So how many programs are there? And you've said that the youth are the ones to take up the responsibility in their respective wards. Like you don't have to go there. There's someone who's already doing it. You're just maybe overseeing, right? How many wards have you been able to incorporate the youth into the leadership program? Or how many youths in?
Currently we have two youth councils in Kazandani and Komani. And what I do is I usually take 20 youths each. 10 female, male, 10, and then I make sure that there are 2 representatives from the people with disability.
Oh, and that brings the question of the criteria. How do you choose these 20 people? Because there are many youths in that word. So how do I know if I'm going to get chosen or not?
And at first, in each community, you find that there are vocal leaders who are there. So it's just about doing a scope, look at the community, see who is able to help you achieve the goals that you want to achieve. And then when you bring on board like 5 youth leaders, and then they identify other youth leaders. So that's how you get a connection whereby a network of youth leaders who are all that new to you, but within the community, if you ask around, you get to realize that each one that you have picked is well established in that community as a leader.
Now, when we talk about youth advocacy, what are some of the challenges that you have during your interactions with the youth, you have highlighted as key problems that affect the youth, and how have you been able to mitigate them?
And the key challenges of any youth in Kenya at this moment is unemployment. And coming to the community level, community problems, we have access to healthcare and youth-friendly services at the healthcare. So, for advocacy, we don't have much power. As in the best we can do is working with stakeholders, and that is working with the area MCA, with respective and ministries in the national government and the county government. So the best we can do is just make our voices to be heard. And the challenges are always there, whereby you feel like there's a point, you feel like you don't have the power to carry on, and you just want to let it go. But the more you keep on pushing is when you get to realize that. And as youths, when we come together collectively, we can have a transformational change in Kenya, because clearly 75% of the Kenyan population at this moment is the youth. So it's high time for the youth to stand up for themselves.
Kirange, you've heard he said healthcare. That's where your issue of suppliers come in.
Yeah.
We'll tell him your issue.
For me, and I know most of youths are already there out, and I believe they can't see this, but the issue of contraceptives, you know, kama saizi ku mambo na hiyo imekatwa kabisa supply because the government is not even supplying it. And for me, I was asking, for example, something like that, how would you deal with it? Maybe kuambia, you know, it's something that affect most of the youths, but hawezi sema, you know, that maybe they don't have those contraceptives, and these things are happening, and they need to be protected. So maybe how do you handle maybe situations like these then?
You know, as I've said, the best we do is work with stakeholders. You know, when we are talking of contraceptives, is we ask the question, why are they not there? When you see that it's a problem from the national government through the Ministry of Health, maybe, how can we talk with our area MCA, maybe advocate for it from the county assembly, and try to see that, you know, the good thing about devolution is we have a chain of maybe command or leadership. So it's all about trying to make sure that our voices are heard, maybe ask for it, and that's the best we can do.
Kirangi, now you have raised your issue. I hope Issa is going to look into it.
Now, talking of gender-based violence, there's someone who is listening there who doesn't know what is gender-based violence, and kindly can you maybe elaborate and maybe tell us why is it an important topic to talk about it in the community?
And gender-based violence, kwa Kiswahili ni dhulma za kijinsia, and I usually call it a pandemic because it's a hidden pandemic. Because from the statistics that I usually share, it's 1 in 3 women that you meet, you get to realize that they are either physically assaulted or just intimate partner violence. So gender-based violence is any act of violence, and physically, financially, emotionally, psychologically. So these are things that are there. Now, it's hard to talk about it, you know, in our communities at times, because you find that the husband beats up the wife, and you are told that do not involve yourself in family issues. So these are things that we usually advocate for, and it's a serious thing. And we have cases whereby you find that fathers kill their daughters or their sons, and we just want to understand why is it happening. How does it reach to a point whereby a father is able to kill his children and then kill his wife and then commit suicide? You know, these are issues in Kenya that we take them for granted at times, because you see them at the stories and then people laugh about it, you know,
Thinking
so
it's not you.
it's not you, but these things are serious. And that's why we usually put a lot of efforts in advocacy against GPV.
Okay. Have you ever come across any of the cases, and how did you handle it?
And I think the last case that I responded to was the one in Bombululu, where the father had burnt down the house with 2 children, and he later on committed suicide. So the best we can do, again, as a community-based organization, is just give psychological support, talk to the family, see where we can assist them, and in partnership with the Office of the Women Rep, Honorable Mama Zamzam. And we had a sit down, came up with a need assessment, and we realized that the survivor, one of the girls, there were 3 children, one of the girls had to go back to school, and we ensured that she went back to school. So these are cases, you know, like for example the Bombolulu case, where such things happen. You find that even the survivors cannot continue or live their life normally again because of the trauma. You see that the child who has lost 2 children by the father killing the children, then burning down the house. So you can think about how it affects even the coming generation. So the best we did was just did a need assessment and then gave financial support to the children and family and relocated them to a good house.
Yeah, and do you still follow the cases? Like, for example, like that case, the Bombolulu case. Is it now that you sorted them out? She went through psychology. Did she go through therapy?
And again, what we did was we have referral pathways.
Okay.
Yeah, we referred them to Tononoka and GPV center.
Yeah.
And I think that's where they got the most support from psychologically with the trauma support. Yeah.
Wow. So now that you've talked about the Tononoka Center, how do you make sure, or which are some of other organizations that you collaborate with in the course of trying to create awareness and eradicate gender-based violence?
And there are organizations that are there. Sauti ya Wanawake. And we have Sauti ya Wanawake that we have sat down with on policy level, not on ground level. So these are stakeholders. There are organizations, Haki Africa and Muhuri, but our organization hasn't collaborated with them in any on community level. And we also have Uzalendo Africa. So those are organizations that are there on policy level. But on ground level, most of the time I've found myself to be alone together with Sauti ya Wanawake.
Oh, what do you mean by on policy level? Like when you guys are making policies, when you're on the table trying to say, okay, this is how we're going to do things, when you go to the ground, and then on the ground, everyone goes on their own.
Yeah. On, advocacy, for me, it's divided maybe into two. Because, we can have an advocacy whereby we go to the ground to create awareness. You create awareness, you talk to the community through barazas, and we have whereby you look at the policies that are there, and then you see how does it favor or how does it try to control whatever that we're dealing with. Through the referral pathways, you can find maybe the justice system is broken, or maybe, for example, we had the polycare that was supposed to be introduced by the national government, whereby the gender desk officer is supposed to be there once a GPV victim is brought to the center and follow up with it with paralegal team and all that. And it hasn't been established or implemented yet. So we follow up with that also through different organizations. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's on policy level.
All right. So in the whole journey of advocacy, what are some of the challenges that you face as an organization or you have faced as a leader? Because, the organization can face problems and the leader is still facing his own problems.
And as a leader, sometimes you feel the burnout. You see, because we are not employed to do this. This is something that we have taken up as a responsibility because you feel like the community needs you. Yeah. It's a sort of calling.
Yes.
You feel it.
Yeah.
So the challenges are there. And mostly, I think the main challenge that I've ever faced is, as a leader, is the burnout. Following up with cases and listening to different cases whereby you feel like there's a lot that you want to do, but you don't have the power to do it. Yeah. And as an organization, mostly again, as a CBO, is funding. Because you feel like you want to create so much awareness that the whole world gets to know about it, but you don't have the funding to do that. And carrying out the barazas, I think just normal baraza will cost you 20,000, 30,000. So you can imagine how much funding you will need to, or the proper budget that you will need to have proper awareness done. Yeah.
Whoa. So what pushes you when in times, for example, in times you have a burnout and you're thinking, I have done everything I've done with this organization. Have you ever thought of maybe it's time to pull out? Maybe it's time for me to put it aside, kidogo, focus on other things. It will come back later or something like that.
And as I've said, when you have a vision and you have a calling, you feel like it's possible again. The fact that you feel the possibility of you carrying out or having these issues being addressed by you, and then you feel like there is the possibility that someone will hear you out, gives you the energy to carry on always, and the support from the community also. When you go to a community and then you see the smiles of the people, and then they tell you, umetusaidia, you have done this, you have done that. That's what keeps you going, because you know that you are impacting people's life.
Yeah.
And I think that's the main source of energy for what I'm doing right now, is the community. Once you get that from the community, and they always keep you pushing. Hata saa zingine people, they will just text you out of nowhere, kiongozi vipi, hatuja kuona ground for too long, when are you coming? And then you get to realize that, okay, this is now what you have been thinking about, and you should carry on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. So what are some of the achievements that you can point out and say, this is the future pillars, this is the work of future pillars, and this is what we have done in this community?
And I think the achievements that I'm proud of is having the youth councils, launching the youth councils, and then making sure that they are working. And Mkomani Youth Council was launched by the organization and the area MCA, and the advocacy at Maweni Dispensary. I feel it was successful because we took the area MCA for a fact-finding mission to the dispensary. And then a few weeks later, we heard that the dispensary was well stocked with medicine again. So even that was something that the community was proud of, and they felt happy about. And then they realized that their voices can be heard. And that's where Mkomani Youth Council now has a strong voice, and the leaders are united to make sure that they're able to advocate for any other societal issue. And Kazandani, we have two youth groups, and that are doing waste collection and creative arts, and it's their own initiative, but I'm trying to support them, and it's working well. So I think I can be proud of those two achievements.
Wow. Take us, I feel like the Youth Council is doing a lot. Take us through what they do on maybe a daily basis, or just the outlook of what they do. They do advocacy?
Man, the Youth Council is mostly advocacy. It's all about the issue of how do we solve our own problems. If it's drainage, if it's crime, if it's maybe how do we find employment opportunities for the youths in Mkomani. So they have different programs that they usually do, which we supervise, or which I personally get involved with. For example, for the Maweni Dispensary one, we were together. We wrote a report, the initial report, to the area MCA, whereby we addressed all the issues that the dispensary was facing. And the good thing was the MCA agreed to join us for a fact-finding mission to the dispensary. And it was the first time that the area MCA of Mkomani, since devolution, an MCA went to the dispensary to go and look at what was going on. So that's how powerful a youth council can be. Youth-led initiatives around the world are already doing enough. The movements, the advocacy campaigns that they do, and you get to see that a youth-led initiative can bring down a whole government.
Yeah.
Or it can make a policy be implemented in the parliament. So why can't we not have that perspective when it comes to our own country, whereby you see that 75% again is the Kenyan population is youth.
Yeah.
So it's all about just reigniting the spark, whereby you tell them tunaweza fanya hii. Unajua, I usually tell them kwa matatu, when the driver is there, when he's overspeeding, huwa unaambiwa ambia dereva apeleke pole pole.
Chukua hatua.
Yeah. But now the government is being driven by leaders. Sindio?
Yeah.
Now how do we chukua hatua? You see, how do we tell them that, okay, you're overspeeding, you will kill us? Because whatever that they do as leaders is how it's not even about us. We ask ourselves now, the next generation that is coming.
Yes.
You get to see that the health issues are not being discussed. Health centers. Education is all about just having teachers in classes teaching. When you look at the student to teacher ratio, when you look at the doctors to patient ratio in Kenya, so we have a lot of issues that will be addressed as a youth council. So we have a lot to do. Certainly kitu yenye tumeanza na itasimama.
Okay. Yeah. Isa here, alishinda pale award moja murua. Where? How did it feel, by the way, before even I say what the award is all about?
And it really felt nice. You know, as I've said, the issue of being in the community and then you feel like you're not doing enough. And then when you get to the spotlight, knowing that you've won the best community-based organization leader, you feel like, okay, your work is being seen now.
Wow. So last week during the Mombasa Youth Awards, Issa won the best community-based organization leader. And congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow. It seems people are recognizing the work that you have done. And I know that kind of gives you the morale to continue.
Yeah.
Wow. What is the future roadmap of future pillars?
And what I want to achieve by the end of 3 years is ensure that we have youth councils all across Nyali constituency. And Kazandani, Komani are now established. Just giving them enough tools to make their advocacy work to be serious or well. And we have Kongowea, we have Ziwa Langombe and Freetown. And the thing is, in different communities we have different societal problems, so it's just about equipping them and trying to find how we can have a collective youth council. I think the approach that I want to have towards advocacy is not just one man's voice, and it's about having the youth's voice all together. So I just want to focus on having a youth-led movement and the organization focusing on having the youths coming together on solving their own problems by the end of 3 years.
Wow. So maybe just talk to the youth out there and give them this one word that would make them ignite their spark or respark again. Talk to them out there, because most of them are out there thinking, okay, I'm unemployed and I'm just going to stay just around, nitembee mtaa, niende maskani, nirudi, you know. But talk to them and maybe just ignite that spark again.
You know, what I believe is, and the youths have given up in their government. Because the thing is, if you see how we usually perceive the government to be, we feel that it's the downfall of all our problems. Because ukiuliza kijana, like, who's causing your problems, anakwambia ni serikali. You see, so what I want to tell them is, and have the belief that we are going to have good leadership, and leadership begins with you. It doesn't begin with the government, or it doesn't begin with another individual. So the thing is, what I want to tell them is just have the hope that we can have a transformational change if we want it to be there. Because most of the youth, we have given up. We have seen that, okay, this is what God has put us in and this is the end of it. But usually in Quran or in my religion, it said, no soul is overburdened beyond what it can carry. So this is a situation that we are in. It doesn't warrant you to fall into drug abuse. It doesn't warrant you to go and commit crime for you to earn something. That's not the way that the religion wants us to be. The religion wants us to have hope.
Yeah.
And you see, reigniting the spark is usually just making the youth believe that yes, we can. So it's possible. So whatever that you think of, or the visions that we have as youth, and let us not kill it off.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, when you see the light at the end of the tunnel, don't focus on the darkness. So we just want to remove the darkness at the moment and focus on the light.
Wow. Take responsibility as a youth
Yeah.
to change your life. I think when you change your life, you actually change
Everything else around
everything
you.
else.
Because the reason why I say that is when we were forming the youth council in Kazandani, what I noticed was I saw 18 to 21 year old young men and women, boys and girls, who were seeing what I was seeing. You know, the way they were talking is how, by the way, Kazandani Youth Council was the youth council that gave me hope to also carry on, because that's when I realized that there are youth who are seeing what I'm seeing, because they've already established themselves. They have a garbage collection system going on. They collect garbage house to house and they earn revenue and they want to expand. So it's all about now giving them the resources to expand. Now, how does the government come in to support these people who are already taking up leadership in themselves to carry on? So you see, when we have this group of youth around,
Yeah.
it's all about ensuring now how can we have this group of youth across all our community.
True.
Yeah.
True. Wow, that is great. Kindly, as we wind up, which are your social media handles as you as a person and as the organization?
And for the organization, and we have Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. It's all written future underscore CBO. And for Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. And personal is Haitam underscore Isa.
Haitam
Underscore Isa on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter.
All
All
right.
is the same.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for gracing our studios today.
You're
we
welcome.
have given us insightful messages, and we want to congratulate you again and again for winning your award. And we will be here to see you win.
Thank
and
you.
to see the youth of Nyali and Mombasa at large win. And we hope to see future pillars going all overboard, even into the whole world. Who knows?
Thank you.
You're listening to Blue Radio, bringing the vibe.